We'll get tax day commissioners meeting underway. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a very nice day yesterday and it's going to be a great day today. So enjoy it. Get the chance. You'd all stand. I'd like to ask Todd Howe, lead us in pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you all remain standing, I'm going to ask Jay Vandenberg from Waynesburg Christian Church to lead us in prayer.
Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this beautiful day. We thank you so much for the beautiful sunshine that we got to experience tomorrow, or that we got to experience yesterday and today. God, we are reminded that you are a good and powerful creator, and that our lives are meaningful, our lives matter, our lives have purpose. God, I ask that you would just be with this meeting today, Lord. We are blessed to live in this county. We're blessed to live in this city and in this state, in this country. God, we ask that your blessings would continue to be poured out here. And Lord, as we pray that Lord's Prayer, your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's a declaration, God, that we want to bring a little bit of heaven to earth, God, that we would individually be able to bring your love, your compassion, your creativity, your care, and your mercy into this world, Lord, as a representation of you. So God, help us to do that today. God, we pray for those that serve so well in our community. God, we pray for our teachers that have such an important job. God, we pray for our first responders that do so much and sacrifice so much for our community. God, we just ask that you continue to be with them and give them everything that they need. And for our public servants, God, we ask that you give them wisdom, that you give them discernment, you give them the knowledge that they need to make decisions that aren't always easy. We know that their job isn't always easy. So Lord, be with them today as they meet, and just continue to pour out your blessings on our little town here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. April 1st minutes. Any corrections?
The cost of the vehicle for court services, I had in my notes is $40,335. I could be wrong. I just saw a difference. So I didn't know if you guys had a difference in the notes series.
That was the number I recall.
Which number, because that's the recording, what the wife stated,
The 40 or the 45?
45, that's what the recording was. So whether that's what it ended up being.
I'll shoot you guys an email because my recollection was that it was 40,000. Yeah.
I don't have with me.
We did the claim, Jim, we did the claim for 36, so it came in under, we just.
Under.
So it did come in under that 40 mark.
Okay. That's fine.
Anything else?
I didn't have anything else. I'd move to approve. I'll second.
You've heard. So I had a set of minutes from an executive session. Correct? Have an executive session minutes?
We didn't do that.
All right. Claims. Any other claims?
I don't see anything. I don't have anything on claims.
Make a motion to approve.
That's second.
Payroll.
I'd move to approve payment.
I've got some questions. My turn, yes. Sheriff. Detention center, a lot of overtime. Are we down personnel or?
It's eclipse, you were prepared for eclipse.
So the detention, okay, we have those guys out, okay. But most of the other notes where there were overtime, they had an eclipse explanation. Because I don't have anything else. You guys work eclipse? You had a lot of overtime, that storm.
Trees down, signs down.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Since we met last time, we're still out addressing gravel roads, grading and spreading stone where we need to. Patching roads, seems like it's a never ending thing. They're probably ready to bring in some emulsion for Dura Patcher. Out mowing some roads, on the roadsides. Tim and I are working on a draft for the fuel bid. And since we get that put together, we'll get that to Chad so he can look that over. Decatur County got awarded for the community crossing grant, which I seen was in the paper. Advertisement for Bridge 141, which is the one I submitted for federal aid, is out for advertisement. I've had about 3 calls on that bridge so far.
What's the location of that bridge?
County Road South, County Road 1000 West. It's off 600 South, Bartholomew County line. It's in the RFP, which is a request for proposal, and they've got until May the 9th to send in a letter of interest during the rest of the bid for the bid process. Other than that, the only thing I got Josh Tressler here to talk to you guys, bring about the GPS that we're looking at for the county. So I'll turn the floor over to Josh.
Good morning. Just to give everybody an update, Todd and Tim came to us kind of looking at a new GPS solution for their vehicles. We were kind of looking at what we're doing for the sheriff's department and the city police department, where we put a cradle point in the vehicle. The expense of that for data access and internet things didn't make sense to put in every vehicle for just GPS tracking. So we did a little research. Dave Henderson in our office actually found some software that's very similar to the commercial offerings that charge you $15 to $20 a month per vehicle for monitoring and such. Found a system that we can integrate with all of our existing systems. It's about $42 to $49 per device to buy to outfit the vehicle with the actual GPS tracker. And then it allows us to put them in a pool of data, like the old school family share plan data. And I believe we did the math to outfit all of their trucks would be less than 1 year of the solution we're currently paying for today. And then it's going to be about $18 a month to monitor all of their vehicles, not per vehicle. So I believe they're able to do all of this within their budget. We just wanted to talk about it and bring it up. We've had requests from, I think, animal control, sheriff's department transport vehicles, basically some other vehicles or things that we may want to put tracking capabilities on that don't necessarily need a cradle point full data service for a computer that's always on. Questions on that? Or any? We'll also probably send something out to the other department heads if there's any other use from others, because like I said, the 2 departments have reached out and asked for that, but not all.
What are we using the data that we're collecting for? What's the intent and purpose of installing the tracking software?
So we can see where we've got a map that comes up in our offices for location of equipment, where they're at on the snowplow routes, where they've been, where they need help at. The RAS track system that we've used for years, to be taken over, it's old, it's outdated. But basically the intent is it'll tell you mile per hour they're running, what roads they've been on, where they've been for the past 5 hours. It's basically just a tracking system so we can, basically it'd probably be the most helpful in the winter, okay? But also in the summer, it lets you know the location where a piece of equipment's at, skid loader, backhoe, excavator, so that way we know where to go. If we get called in for damage, 3 down, we gotta get backhoe, we might need an excavator, and maybe need a skid loader to get it off the road. So it's basically that purpose for the location of our equipment and our people.
And theft.
So, sounds like you're gonna be able to do this with the budget that you already have drafted.
Sorry.
You're gonna be able to do this already with the budget that you have drafted and everything.
Yes.
don't either.
I think it's a good way to keep track of equipment and people. And if something bad happens, somebody has a crash or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is, as Tim and I was researching this a little bit, we found out that skid loader equipment is the biggest thing for theft. So we never have had it in the skid loader. Okay, so I think that's one of the things we're going to incorporate, put in the skid loaders.
If you have a unit that is 2021 or newer, you do, it's company equipped, factory equipped. So Miller's, I mean, any Bobcat dealer in the country can tell you where any serial number Bobcat product is, any one time. So learned that the hard way. Ours was one stolen was a year previous to that, so
Okay.
it did not have tracking device in it. Anything else?
In the last meeting, we talked about Bridge 70. We discussed Bridge 70 August of 2023. During that meeting, according to our meeting minutes, we decided, so that's County Road 50 North, east side of town. We decided to keep that bridge temporarily closed, but not permanently closed. It was asked residents impacted by the road closure should be contacted before final decision is made. It was reported the estimated cost was $2.5 million to the federal aid project. Last meeting, the estimated cost for us to build it in-house was $300,000 or $400,000. In that meeting, I asked for an update or a financial overview of projections of cost versus expenses of the county highway garage. We received those initial numbers back, and they're showing a shortfall every year for the next 10 years between $1.5 and $1.8 million. So to answer the question, from my viewpoint on Bridge 70, it needs to remain temporarily closed for the foreseeable future. My understanding is that when we permanently close it, it can never be reopened again. So we want to keep it as a temporary closure so it stays on our inventory, so that at some point in time in the future, whether that's 5 or 10 years from now, we can repair it, still have that option.
Yeah.
That was, I think, while it said temporary closure on the minutes, I think that's basically what it was.
Permanent temporary.
Which was why the paving that was done out there, right, Todd?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I guess it should be a permanent closure that remains on our inventory for the property.
I've had some more people contact me again about 500 where the bus accident had happened. I actually got confirmation after our meeting last time that the bus did in fact get sucked down into the ditch when it had to get over, and the top of the bus did in fact hit the telephone pole. Have we done anything to address that? Because I know I had sent some pictures about how deep that ditch is right there.
We're looking at options within the budget.
Okay. And then I know that we're going to be doing another project on Base Road. My concern with where we're at now with the project is that if we are keeping the road narrow or we aren't widening it as much as we could, is that we're going to be creating another problem, exactly like what we have been dealing with over the last 6 months with these drop-offs.
We talk about the widening of Base Road.
Yeah.
So I had the same phone call. I spoke to Mr. Horton about that. He said the problem with widening isn't the resurfacing for the widening, it's the moving of all the utilities.
Yeah, and the ditch.
Right, the ditch and utilities have to be moved to widen it.
I mean, that's my biggest concern, is that we're again going to be creating the same situation that we've seen on 500, on what is it, 700, that heads into St. Paul, where we've had these same issues. So I guess I'm open to ideas because I don't want to see us dealing with the same problem again from another community crossing project, because we created an edge on the road that's 4 to, in some cases, like 8 inches, and then a big drop off down into the ditch.
Yeah, so right now, I'm trying to look for solutions to take care of that. 700, 500. the pavement projects for this year.
It's my understanding, we basically took an 18-foot road and pushed it 20. So what we did realistically was pave the shoulder, correct? Instead of having a gravel shoulder, we paved those shoulders.
Well, it happens as you go in, you put that stone shoulder on, and it packs down over the years, then you can go back in and you have where you got something there.
Right.
So you can widen it to 20 foot, which is our goal, where we can. For some situations, you can't get it any wider, okay? Because of utilities or the ditch or things of that nature. So,
But realistically, what we're doing is paving the shoulder. You're saying we're widening the road, but we're paving the shoulder. We're not widening the road, we're paving over the shoulder. So I'll go back to a question I asked a few months ago. What's it cost to paint a sideline on a road? A visual barrier that when you drive down the road, you can judge where the edge of the road stops, so you're not taking the whole thing.
I don't know what the cost of that
Striping?
is.
Yes.
For just the sides,
Yes.
$1.50 per foot.
So what do we think the expected cost is of widening the road another foot on each side to return the shoulder? Because that's the problem basically, is people are utilizing the shoulder to create space. What was an 18-foot road with a stone shoulder of a foot would turn into a 20-foot road with no shoulder. That's a summary of what really the problem is. It was an 18-foot asphalt road with a 1-foot stone shoulder. Now we're asphalting that shoulder. So people are utilizing it as a road. If we stripe the edge of the road, so people have a visual barrier where the edge of that road stops, that's how far they can get over safely. Without that, they lose it. So like when I got taught to growing, way back when we had emblems on the front of our hoods, you were taught to look at the emblem, use the emblem to line up the edge of the road of the road stripe. We've lost the emblems, obviously, but we don't have the reference where we should be stopping on the edge of the road. So we're putting ourselves all the way to the edge of the shoulder now, because we've given them an extra foot of paved shoulder, and then we're falling off. So I think if we add striping to the edge of the road to utilize and say, hey, this is the road edge. Once you get past the stripe, you're now on the shoulder. Give somebody a visual barrier to keep them from running off the edge of the road. And I'm assuming, based off of previous conversations, striping may be a lot less expensive than now making an 18-foot road with a 1-foot shoulder into a 20-foot road with a 1-foot shoulder. Because all we did was pave the shoulders.
I couldn't give you an answer to that, Tony, but we could figure that out. But that's something it would require continuous maintenance. So I don't know how that cost would bear out, but I can do some research and get some numbers for you.
Well, the conversation I had with Base Road is that if we widen it, we have to move utilities, we have to move ditches, the cost of the widening, properly widening the road was the issue. We've widened these roads, but we haven't properly done. We're saying they're 20 feet wide with no shoulder, where before they were 18 with a shoulder. So we widened them to 20, but we didn't create a shoulder. But if we add stripes back, they're back to being 18 feet roads with a 1-foot shoulder. Does that resolve our problem in some way?
I don't think it really does. I think at the end of the day, the drop off is now right next to the ditch, so that you have a 4 to 9 inch drop off that then goes right into the ditch. So you have no space to get over it all. That's why I just want to make sure that what we're doing on Base Road that we don't repeat these issues that we've been trying to fix over the last year. So I don't know how we manage that, but that's my #1 priority with the amount of traffic from all of the different agribusinesses that are using Base Road.
When I talked to Tim, it didn't sound like he thought we could afford to widen that road properly.
Equipment's getting wider. When you fix and repair a road, as we've done, speeds increase. Just because we paved 700, made it nicer. Are there more accidents now that it's been paved because of driving faster, or people drove slower before, or farm equipment's wider, semi trucks are now wider, trailers are wider. Just, we only have so much real estate to work with.
The 300-mile road that we put in the late 90s and early 2000s is coming of age, ready to be repaired or replaced. Tim suggested a committee to look at some of the budget stuff and prioritize projects between council and commissioners and county highway. I think that's a great idea and very, very much needed, so that as we make decisions and decide on bridges and how we're going to do roads and talk to the community, because we obviously get phone calls understanding what the money looks like. If you can't afford to do it, you can't afford to do it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody says stay within your means. So agreeing to widen the road and then not being able to afford it isn't something that we can do. So I definitely think we need to look at doing those committees, taking a good deep dive and prioritizing what our projects are, what ones we're potentially going to have to just not do. We're at $1.8 million shortfall because gas tax and revenues from gas taxes are decreasing, and the state legislature is talking about reducing them even more. So one of our revenue streams for fixing roads, the state is talking about reducing, while it's already being reduced through better efficiency cars and hybrids and EVs. We're going to have to really figure out how to pay for this stuff. So we need some creative ideas and thoughts to move forward with that.
Up there at Love's where you guys patched 2 weeks ago, it's gone. So might have to take a look at that. It might be time to mill that down. Because it's whatever patch you guys put in there, it's just from the amount of traffic from the semis up there, it's gone.
Blows it out.
Yeah, I don't have a chance. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Kenny.
Good morning, Commissioner. Since our last meeting, I had 34 building inspections. So we got 14 new building permits and plan reviews. Had 1 permit renewal. And 2 red tags. The first one was on a final inspection, stick built house did not have a carbon monoxide smoke detector in the garage area, which is required with an attached garage. The builder was informed and corrected the code violation. On a second red tag was on a meter-based inspection. Ground wire was exposed. Property owner contacted the electrician and the ground was put into conduit. Last week I entered 29 names and properties into my burning complaint file. And now I will go out and take pictures and assess the properties for the danger level. If they are trashy nuisance properties that need to be cleaned up, or unsafe structures that need to be removed. And I still need to contact the Washington Township trustee about the electric court properties. I talked to Sean Durbin a little bit this morning about that one up there. But somebody's living supposedly in a barn. We need to address that. He said he visited the property with nobody was inside. So
That's the one with the alleged no septic, but people living there.
yeah, that's all I got.
And to be clear, we're not going out to look at Washington Township properties. You're just going out
No.
with the Washington Township
Right.
trustee
Right.
to look at the rest of the
She
properties.
has,
Her properties aren't currently being,
No.
they're all cleaned
no,
up.
she just wants to,
Just wanted to clarify that.
right.
You're not going out to look at her stuff.
No.
You're going out to look at her
She is,
so she can show you everything else that she can use.
she's volunteered to go with me. She knows some of the people in there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public didn't think that we were going
No.
because there was a problem with the trustee properties.
No.
That's all been cleaned up last night.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you.
Chris.
morning. I've got a few zoning change ordinances for you this morning. First one is Donnie Bull, ordinance number 2024-6. He's requesting to rezone 2.99 acres from A1 to A2 so he can build a new home.
Everyone present voted in favor of that.
That's Mark's. Yes, everything I saw is there.
Yes, everybody there, vote yes.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
And then I have ordinance 2024-3, licensing, excavating, and sales and service, requesting to rezone 16.848 acres from A1 to I1. I want to expand their sales.
What about the drainage out there?
He's got to do drainage. He's got to do a drainage study.
Well, you know, this has been going on for a long time. And he keeps putting hard surface in. We keep letting it happen. At what point in time do we say, hey, this has got to be done before going further?
Before he does anything else on that piece of property.
So what's this going to allow him to do?
Everyone.
So like my question was, at what point in time are we going to say, hey, this has
If
to be
he
done?
does anything else, he has to both go to INDOT or IDEM for that SWIFT, whatever that new stormwater is, and our stormwater gets into effect now, before he goes any further.
So he doesn't need to do that stuff before this,
No,
at this point, since he hasn't done any changes to the actual ground itself.
not yet. It's not, he needs it.
Because the elevations of the property's been raised.
Yeah.
5 or 6 feet. And you all know water runs downhill now. Everybody, his water is going to somebody else. Everyone present voted yes to allow it. So I just want to be sure that he
And
follows
with
everything
zoning,
like every
yeah.
other business in the
With
county.
zoning, you have to be careful because it's more of, does it fit the area rather than what are they gonna do with it? And since he is I-1 on the west side and the property on the east side was also an I-1, we were kind
So now it's to the building inspector and the building process to make sure
of,
that.
to make sure that the next step is.
The zoning is not denied for it, but any construction or building is gonna require the flood stormwater.
And the fact that he keeps putting surface there is, needs to be addressed.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
With the understanding that this would be monitored.
The next ordinance is 2023-11, Barry and Jill Mormon, requesting to rezone 1.5 acres from A1 to A2 so they can build a new home.
It's like 6 present, 6 voted for, 3 absent.
I'd move to approve. Second. General information, I guess, for me and the public, what's our acreage requirements for residential property in the county?
1.5 minimum.
I saw 2.99 on so many of them before, so I wasn't sure whether that was.
That's the maximum allowed to be rezoned.
Okay.
Because if they had 3, then there would be 2 homes allowed. So we go to 2.99 for 1 residential as well.
And then 1.25 is the minimum for septic.
1.5 minimum for in an A1 zone.
Thank you.
Then I have 2024-4, Jason Wagner, requesting to rezone 1.5 acres from A1 to A2 so that they can build a new home.
Present. Oh, yes.
I move to approve.
That's all I have for you at this time.
Do you have any details about the upcoming PCA meeting for the solar farm?
That will be the first Wednesday of June, and it will be at the Greensburg High School. Final plans have not been confirmed, but it's been agreed to by Tom Hunter and members of the board over there. So we've got the auditorium, and they're going to work with us to make sure that we have plenty of microphones and plenty of space and a system, and that it be recorded. So we're working it out.
Very cool.
So June 7th at this time?
Yes.
Thank you, Krista.
So Krista, while you're still here, Chad and I had a conversation on drainage, and we would like to, or I would like to hear you. Chad, you can jump in here in a moment. Who, in your board's eyes, is in charge of enforcement on drainage issues?
I have no idea.
I mean, in our brief conversation, what I looked at, my belief would be that the plan would be the enforcement arm of the commissioners on that, and that it was adopted through you all, you would enforce. I didn't take the time to read all, however many pages it was, but I tried to skip to the section applicable, and that was my initial take. And I don't know if you talked to Misty about how that would look, if I need to talk to Misty about it, but that would be
We
my
probably all
initial
need to
take.
get together.
Yeah. No need to have the rules if we're not enforcing.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll head that direction. Thanks. Teresa. You got Caesar here?
Yeah. Well, a different topic today, but since I took over as director, I've been talking to you, the county council, and the park board about the need for additional upgraded parking at Rebecca Park. And as we're about to enter into our first summer with our new inclusion park, it's becoming even more necessary that we address this sooner than later. The existing design and the existing flow of traffic isn't safe for anybody really, especially all the children that are out there. So Zach Weary from the city, Director of Public Projects, reached out to me and wanted to talk to me about a plan that they had as a part of the expansion of the connection walking trail. It's a design plan that's in their plan, but it does not have funding available in the grant to cover the parking portion of that design. So Zach agreed to come to me, or offered to come with me this morning to share a design with you that you might want to be able to consider as a possible option that we might be able to move forward to get this taken care of. And we are also planning to share the same tonight at the park board meeting and also with the council tomorrow. So I'm going to let Zach, he has all the details and things that he can share with you, and I've got some papers and all. That's not what he does that.
Good morning. As Teresa said, we do have the current design out for Rebecca Park Trail. It is granted partially through the Next Level Trails Fund. To get the trail built with design, that grant has maxed out. However, we have gotten part of the design cost included in that grant for the parking. And the city believes we should put that parking lot as an option with the contract to be let. Therefore, if the trail itself comes in for your budget, you can use any of the money left in that grant to help pay for the parking lot. Just to be clear, we can't sit here and say there's any money left, but if we do have money left, then we can use it for parking options. Right now in the current design, which is the first design you have, it includes a 45 spot parking lot with angled parking. Very one-way direction traffic flow. There are two other options that USI presented to us. One for 79 parking spot option with angle parking is similar to 45 one. And then a 90-degree parking with 85 spots. In the budget number, you can kind of see the cost difference for all those. Kind of help you make your decision on a path forward. If you want to change the current design that's in there, which is the 45 spot, if you do think funding is available to bump it up. Talking to Teresa, it sounds like that 45 spots can be used up really quick to pretty much only meet your need for a day. Which is why we asked them to add the 2 alternates in there. The 45 spot can be added on later. It's basically designed to where if you want to come back 5 years from now and expand that parking, it would be doable with minimal reconstruction. One caveat with that parking is there will need to be a exception to standards for the city because that is no curbs on that parking lot. I don't think it would be an issue with the city to eliminate those curbs under the standards because essentially water is going to run off into the grass. But just to make that clear that there is a
I've already been out there on numerous weekends and kind of just been counting cars just to get an idea of what we've been seeing. And with the nicer spring that we've had on more than one occasion, I've counted over 40 cars in the park itself. Now that doesn't necessarily mean 40 cars can fit where our existing parking lot is, but that's adding people who have pulled off into the grass, people who utilize the dog park parking, and have even parking across the road at the trails. And that particular option isn't the best case scenario to cross Northeast 80 or to go to the playground. So I'd rather see the people coming to the park to use the actual park and not the Charles Wheel trails to be able to park within the park to keep the kids and all park patrons, not just the kids, but you know, we just wanted to see if we can come up with an option that offers a better, safer environment for everybody. And we're, you know, with the road, the drive-through over to Arbor Grove, there's just some things that need to be addressed out there as the crowds and the usage has definitely gone up with the improvements at Rebecca Park, not only the playground, but the pickleball courts, the exercise equipment. The eclipse was certainly not the normal day for us, but the park was full everywhere. I mean, every area of the park was being used, so we can't compare that day, of course, to parking needs, but on the average, normal time, we still are having a lot of visitors to Rebecca Park right now.
And for today, I do not need an answer on funding availability. Like I said, it will go with the contract letting regardless. We're planning for that to get let October, November, so November, December. We like to answer at that point whether the funding is there or not. One thing I would ask for today is selection of a parking option. That way we can get the designer to proceed with that design, get it done in time for October.
And I assume you're aware of Harbor Grove is redoing their road from 46 in over to the pickleball courts.
And only, it looks like only gave one cost, 45 spots in your analysis.
There should be 3 costs. Listing for the 45 spots, and then there's option 1 and option 2 for that.
Okay, I see it now. So 45 spots is $178,950. 85 spots is $420,700. 79 spots is $299,650.
Correct. Those costs are purely construction. All the design costs are absorbed by the city. I would make any inspection associated with construction. So that cost is not in there. You all, if you choose to do it with the project.
So $120,000 for 6 spots.
Yeah, the 90-degree parking is, it just takes up more space, which is why there's such a drastic difference between 79 and 85. The angled parking is much more efficient use of space. 90-degree parking does allow for a lot more open area to drive through. This is 79 spots in the angled parking, which is basically one way in, one way out.
I mean, for me, if I were to say one particular project without committing to actually doing it, I would look at the 79 because it gives you, I think, the most free money. Instead of 45 spots for 180, you're getting 79, just under 300. I think that's by far the best return for any investment if we were to make any investment in the parking out there.
I would agree with that assessment. Not that I agree to build a parking lot, but that's the route I would take.
Basically, I just brought this to your attention today because we've just been talking. We've never really had a plan to look at or any figures to consider. So when he approached with this option, I figured it was in the best interest to start sharing actual copies and something to look at, and so, rather than just continue to talk about the need, just to start looking at ways that we might be able to handle and address that need.
Definitely think the inclusion park was great for us, and it's used a lot.
Yep.
It's just another example of a project that was completed and done, and now we're back to the table going, hey, this really great thing is gonna cost another $300,000 because we don't have parking for the people who are using it.
And I agree with that, but even without the inclusion park, Rebecca Park was at a time where it needed to be addressed for parking. I mean, maybe not to the scale of what we're looking at right now, but with the added upgrades out there and the people that want to use that park and the walking trail, the connection walking trail brings numerous people to the park. They park all along the trail.
I understand. It's just trying to figure out how to pay for everything.
I understand.
I mean, it's a great park, and we've done a lot of delving out there. Now we're back for another $300,000 for the parking lot. Taking a look at the total picture of what things cost, piecemealing it, it seems good, and then at the end, where we're at. I definitely think if we can do it, doing 45 does not plan for any future. 79 is really the only option. Trying to figure out where we're gonna come up with that, and the project list of things that are out there is gonna be a struggle.
I will have USI proceed forward with 79 parking option design.
Zach, this plaza that's down here, does that have anything to do with us?
That's all included.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Zach. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Ruth.
Morning, everyone. This item is for change order number 1 at the Decatur County Highway Department. That project is winding down, and we're waiting on a couple pieces of equipment to come in to finish that up. But we think we have a good handle on the overall project cost, and this change order addresses kind of buttoning up all of the individual pay items and kind of setting where we think the final project cost is going to come in. I believe you all have a copy of the change order in your packet with all the individual line items listed. But to summarize, the total value of this change order is a deduct of $1,082,838.90. The original contract price was $11.5 million. So that puts the new contract price for the project at $10,417,161.10. The change order does not change any of the completion dates for the project, but we are asking for you to approve the change order to change the contract amount. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the change order.
I didn't get any of that paperwork out here. So I can't talk about something I never got the paperwork for, so.
It's not in the packet.
You guys want a copy of PCAD? My apologies. These are originals. See individual line items.
So an explanation or to help you guys understand this. The BOT process took a maximum, project was not to exceed $11,500,000. So as we went through each category during construction, we beat down and tried to find less expensive ways to do things, and that's exactly what we did. Had allowances in there for every item listed on here. Thought between Strain and Maxwell's did a fantastic job to get the project completed on time and under budget. So all these things where it says deduct are under budgets.
No, I appreciate the information, Steve. I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve the change order number 1.
I'll second.
I'll incur. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Also, I have an invoice here. Professional service March 1 through March 31. If I'm reading this correctly, it's $2,232.61 from Strand.
I think we've been forwarding this to Maxwell.
And this needs to go to Maxwell in? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. It's not to us. Okay. I'll get that in.
Do you need all of our signatures or just Mark's?
Just one, be fine.
What's the, can we kind of start looking at this as the final number? What's the like?
We don't anticipate any additional changes. Yeah, we think that's the final number.
We can start looking forward and discussing payment options, locations, and financing for that then.
He is putting that together for us as we speak. And I say he, that's Greg Marks, GM Development.
Yes.
All three signed?
Yes, please.
There you go, Steve. Thanks.
Thank you for the update.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
here on two matters. The first one is regarding the Stellar Pathways program put out by the state. We have a local Stellar committee that continues to meet after the city's 2017 application for the Stellar Communities program, made up of the city, the Parks and Recreation Foundation, I'm going to forget somebody, Main Street Chamber, EDC, Tourism. That's not the area they're about. So we continue to meet monthly and just talk about projects and programs in the community at large. And this came across, it's a collaboration between the IHCDA, the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority, NDOT, Indiana Department of Health, OPRA, Office of Community Rural Affairs, DNR, Indiana Tourism, and the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. They all had pooled some funds that they had in projects that they had, and we're launching this Stellar Pathways grant. The committee did investigate it quite a bit, met with OPRA more than a few times, and it decided that we are not going to apply for the funds for a couple reasons. One being that neither the county nor the city qualify as low to moderate income, which is one of the requirements for some of the programs in this. There are two areas that do, St. Paul and New Point, but overall the county does no longer qualifies for low to moderate income as the city. Another reason, some of the restrictions that are placed on the money, if we got NDOT funds, neither the city or the county would be able to apply for NDOT funds for the remaining 3 years, which we thought kind of restricted us a little bit too much. And then finally, for the LMI, qualified towns and such, there would be quite a bit of match. I believe it was up to 20, sometimes up to 40% match. So we decided to sit this one out just because if we did put together an application, it would not be very competitive. So there's that. On the other hand, and you guys have any questions on that process. On the other one, we do have some good news actually from the Ready. Last Thursday, the Celebrate Rural Indiana region was awarded $30 million for our region to implement our strategic plan. That plan is made up of both projects that are left over from Ready 1.0, and then mixed with some added projects that were garnered from public focus groups, that sort of thing, strategic opportunities that have come about since the Ready 1.0 projects. But very happy to say that it was higher than our last award, and not all regions received more money than we did last time. We even got a little shout out from the state saying that we really upped our game. So that was a great compliment, and financially it was a great compliment, a great vote of confidence in what we're doing here at the Celebrate the region. And those partners in the region are Shelby County, the city of Shelbyville, Rush County, the city of Rushville, Decatur County, the city of Greensburg, and the city of Batesville. I'm not ashamed to say that actually, per capita, we were the largest award in the state. So really want to thank everybody who attended not only the public meetings and such in Ready 1.0, both locally and regionally, but also those focus groups that we held in Ready 2.0, as well as those who have given their time and expertise in kind of building this collaboration regionally. It's going to allow us to tackle some larger scale projects through the establishment of the Regional Development Authority, some infrastructure issues, that kind of thing that previously would just be placed on individual governments like yourself. So I want to encourage you guys, obviously, to stay in contact with the Regional Development Authority and those involved and Ready. I know Mark has served on that committee, as well as Deanna from the council. And
and just be mindful that some of these things that need to be tackled can be tackled cooperatively. And this allows us some more avenues to take on those projects equally in our partnership communities as well. I think it's a great vote great example of cooperation in our region and the state is taking those.
What's the short and long-term effect if we don't get a ready project?
If we don't get a ready project completed, I believe that's, and actually they just upgraded commitment date to August of this year, where they want the ready 1.0 projects completed.
Committed.
Oh, committed, excuse me. Completed is still 2026. As far as what they would say is they will reallocate the funds. Now, I think they would work with you in some way, shape, or form, but I don't believe there's an example of one. It's still a new project, so I don't know what penalties or anything that are out there, and I'm not sure. I'm not familiar enough with the other regions to know if one has failed, whether the money was reallocated or what have you.
And the question comes from the ready project for the aquatic center specifically.
Yes.
The committed date now is August.
August to commit to the project. So
the concern is whether we're able to or going to be able to commit to that before August with the place that we're at with it.
And that again from the ready 1.0, that's already been on at 1.5 million. But yeah, overall, great news for the region. We look forward to continuing the partnership and accomplish a lot of things in the area of southeastern Indiana.
What's our commitment date for 2.0?
That hasn't been described yet. Next point, I'm glad you asked that. The next step is IADC will be coming down. They're going to meet with them in June. They're going to take a look at all our projects and they're going to pick the ones that they feel are the most valuable. We'll kind of start the negotiation period as far as what it is. That will lead to the fact that, previously in 1.0, we were awarded 20 million and split evenly amongst all the partners. That might not happen this time, but the region is aware of that. And we understand that a great development in say, Batesville or Shelby or Rushville has an advantage to the region as a whole as far as being drawn or what have you. So we're going to be meeting up to that point, talking about what ones that we feel, as far as the regional projects go, what ones we feel are the most important, the most impactful. But we don't have that timeline just yet.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Mr. Chris Raymond.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm the founder and president of the Friends of the Greensburg Decatur County Animal Shelter. We're a nonprofit here in Decatur County. The mission of the Friends of the Greensburg Decatur County Animal Shelter exists to support the animal shelter and its missions through fundraising and advocacy to ensure life-saving animal programs and services continue both now and for generations to come. I've had the opportunity to work alongside the animal shelter staff, volunteers, and other contractors. My other fun part-time job is I'm the grant writer for the shelter since April 2023. Exciting enough, just found out that I've been extended through April 2025 through another grant. Amazing things are happening at the shelter. Collaboratively, I shouldn't put in your speech if you can't say it. We have worked as a team to receive over $120,000 in grants since the beginning of last year. Shelter is working to become a no-kill facility. In order to do that, we must also provide supportive services to the community to keep animals out of the shelter. So the goal is not to get just the animals in the shelter to begin with. So we need to have programs and services and room for those programs and services. At this point, the shelter currently operates in a 2,400 square foot building with a 384 square foot outdoor kennel area. If that's wrong, that's all your guys' fault with Beacon. In that facility, we have 4 full-time staff, 1 part-time staff, 2 best friends, animal society contractors, multiple volunteers all working out of the facility with the animals. At this point, if you're interested in adopting an animal or even visiting with an animal, it takes having space to get to know the animal. And it's best to get them out of their overstimulation back in the kennel area. Currently, the shelter has no space for this. If you go to adopt an animal, you're meeting them back in the kennel space. There's 14 other dogs barking, making noise. There's people cleaning, there's people talking, there's other people showing. So the animal's not allowed to relax and actually be adoptable at that point. People come in and they say, oh my gosh, all he does is bark, and he's obnoxious, I don't want him. When it's nice out, it's wonderful. They can go out into the fence area. However, right now, of course, we're getting in a period where they can do that. During the winter, people sometimes are outside in their jackets, meeting with those animals. It's not the best situation. I will say on space, thankfully, ARPA was able to fund a storage shed that's on the shelter property. However, while the shelter begins to do various programs, including the trap neuter release program, there's going to be more need for space. The Friends Up began brainstorming on how we can help get the shelter the opportunity to have a new shelter in the future. We decided that we would do a capital campaign project. Our board voted and approved this. I've also attended the Animal Control Board and discussed this. They didn't kick me out, so that's positive. In this project, the Friends Up wants to be the fundraising entity and will raise funds to be made available for a new shelter. The Friends Up does go into this knowing that we will not have any input in design work, how or when the shelter is built. That goes upon council and commissioners, and we understand that. We just know there's a lot of things in the county that needs done. At every meeting, there's questions about budgets. There's questions about how we're going to fund it. We are being proactive in this. We want to go in and put our skin in the game instead of coming in at the end and saying, how are we going to come up with this money? I've researched with 2 firms. They have quoted a Morton building with very little changes for an animal shelter would be $1.5 million. I have spoken to a couple of shelters. One is Brown County Humane Society. Theirs was a little over $5 million. So it comes down to whatever the commissioners decide that need to be put in that shelter one day. I personally have experience running capital campaigns. I ran a couple in Myrtle Beach where I have a couple contracts with an animal shelter there. It is successful. The point of a capital campaign is we go after large funders. We aren't taking away from the normal funding that the shelter uses. We don't go for the $100 donations. We don't go for a bag of cat food or a bag of dog food. We're going for the large grants. Right now, I'm in talks with a company out of Columbus. We're discussing $25,000 over a 3-year period, $75,000 over a 3-year period, $25,000 a year. One of the rules is I just have to come and make it public. So that is why you're blessed with my presence today. That's supposed to be a laugh, by the way. My goal is once we receive the donations, we will work with the county and the auditor's office to create, and this is something for tomorrow for council, but this is just a surprise heads up. We will work with them on a line item being specific to a capital campaign project. That way, hopefully the county will take those dollars that we raise and put those and invest those to get more money. Common concern I hear is the bigger the building, the bigger the building that it is, the more operational cost it will take. I challenge you to think about it as larger the building, and as we move forward to no-kill, we can offer more services that is going to be money generating for the shelter. Right now, we're doing great things, but we just don't have the space to do other things. There's so many other opportunities out there to bring money in. And with more space, we will have that opportunity. The shelter, the Friends Of, will continue to write and receive grants and take donations for everyday needs and to further the shelter's mission. That's not me. The project is not to reduce or eliminate normal donations, as I said. So the other thing is I've received phone calls since I was put on the agenda. I don't know how commissioners you do it because my phone's been busy just since it got put out. Decatur County, one of the items brought up is going to possibly have other capital campaigns going on shortly, including the pool and the fairground projects. I don't want anybody to think that it's going to be, we're saying donate to us instead of them because we're better or whatever. I want people to think of this as an opportunity to allow our citizens and those outside of the county, and also corporations, to donate to a cause that they are passionate about. Some people, the pool is very important to them. They can donate to that. The fairgrounds is very important to them. They can donate to that. Or if they're an animal person, they can donate to that. What I'm really asking for today is your buy-in to understand that we must begin to be proactive in the future versus reactive, especially when we're looking at taking outside sources for funding to reduce or eliminate the burden on the county budget. I do have a corporation, I already talked about that. I will also say this capital project is not a 3 month, it's not a 6 month, it's not a year. We could be talking 3 years, 5 years down the road, and we know that. We're not going into it thinking we're gonna raise $5 million by tomorrow. I will say, we did have a fundraiser for a dog named Diego. He had medical concerns and was going to a rescue. Laramie, the adoption coordinator, reached out to the Friends of. We began a fundraising campaign where we received local donors, statewide donors, countrywide donors. We received a donation from Australia for the dog. In 82 hours, we raised $2,000. Just imagine what we can do with the entire shelter. If the money is available in grants and from donations, why shouldn't Decatur County work to capture those dollars instead of dipping into our county budget? Not saying down the road, you don't come asking for money, but I am saying that the goal is to get as much as we can. There is a nonprofit that is globally well known, and they offer a grant matching opportunity. I'm getting the information on that. So it would be a 30% match. You would have to apply for it. The nice thing about that is you have 7 years to use those dollars. So it's not we get it today and we have to spend it tomorrow kind of thing. I'm going to selflessly put out another thing. Just a reminder, the car show was on May 4th at the shelter. What questions do you have?
Thanks for your efforts in all this, really. It's big that someone will step up to run a campaign like this for the animal shelter.
I'm a big guy.
I know you are. You might check with Tammy the money that we put, starter seed money for the community building at the fairgrounds we put at the foundation, where they can invest. They have so many more dollars to invest, they can get a better rate. So that might be something you might want to look into as far as, and then the donors having a foundation can get a true tax deductible donation.
Yeah, we can too, with being a nonprofit.
So yeah, there's very few places in government where you can reach out and get grants and donations to help run a thing. And the shelter is one of those places, which is why I've supported Friends Up from the get-go. As much donations and grants that we can get to support the shelter, better. I was hired in the sheriff's department under a federal grant. Grants and being able to locate those and utilize them is something that we should be looking to do every place we can. So I fully support starting a capital campaign for donations and finding some place to park it until we can figure out what exactly the scope of that project is and where it's going to happen.
I don't have any questions. I'm encouraged. It'd be great to see this thing go through.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Safe Streets for All. Who's presenting this?
I don't see anybody in my meeting being good. I thought there was supposed to be. There was supposed to be a couple gentlemen coming here for this particular topic. I suppose we just pushed it out. You can if you want. Yeah, if you want.
So the Safe Streets for All program is a federal program that the city of Rushville applied for And their study region is from Newcastle to 421 here in the city of Greensburg. They have received $900 and some odd thousand from the federal government to do sort of a comprehensive analysis of the safety of State Road 3 between the two locations. So it spans Newcastle, Henry County, Rushville, Rush County, Greensburg, and Decatur County. I thought to Commissioner Peasels, they were supposed to be here this morning. They have a breakdown of what those different levels are. It's based on per lane mile. Commissioner Peasel and I met with them a couple weeks ago to sort of talk about this project. It was funded in part due to the help from the IU Rural Center, or Excellence in Rural Center through IU. And so they have, I don't know if you have it.
I have the actual sheet that they've given us with the figures for what the county's portion, the city's portion, and every other entity that has an interest in this, as far as the cost for the study.
It may be worth pushing out. I wasn't saying not to, but I do think it's a great opportunity for us. It's something that's been talked about for the last 15, 20 years, especially when Honda relocated, and the amount of semi-traffic that flows up and down 3 as it relates to products coming from Ohio to the Indiana assembly plant. So I do think it's one of those things that we should seriously consider. I've committed, the city's going to partner with them. We would hope that the county would partner with them as it becomes a very regional based project to work on, and it's something that's very well needed, and it did receive a lot of funding from the feds that they've been looking for a long time.
So you think they'll come back? Another meeting, or you contact them?
Yep, I'm sure they would.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get that on the agenda at a later date.
Yeah, that gives the public some time to kind of digest what the conversation was too. The study's one part of.
What's been talked about for years.
Yeah.
Figuring out what our match requirement would be on the actual construction is the second half of the conversation.
Yeah, I think there's an important piece of that. That is absolutely nothing on construction. There's no commitment to construction. It is simply to figure out what the plan is. It doesn't even ideally include design. It's simply to do the safety analysis, maybe high level plans, and then it would go into potential requests for federal funding for that project. It isn't a commitment to the next phase.
Right. Thank you.
Next up, City of Greensburg's Dora.
So I asked that this be put on because I've seen on Facebook that Rebecca Park was being included in the door, and I had some concerns that we hadn't had any discussions about including Rebecca Park in the door. So I wanted to have this topic put on to get your guys' thoughts, and then I also wanted to make sure that anybody else, either from Main Street or from the city, had an opportunity to address the project. I mean, my first opinions on it is, my concern is allowing alcohol in a park all the time. I know the possibility of that is always there with the park. Somebody can always have an alcoholic beverage in the park, but these are discussions that we were already having when it came to the softball leagues at Kohler Park. And I know there is a trail, for lack of a better word, that's included in the Dora to go from downtown out to Rebecca Park, and it's gonna more than likely not be feasible to be walking with a beverage from downtown all the way out there. But my concern is that we are basically giving carte blanche approval to having a alcoholic beverage at the park. That's my concern. I'm not against having events at Rebecca Park, say concerts or beer garden, whatever it may be, but with specific approval.
I would agree. I'm totally against alcohol around kids. I think that's what's wrong with America. Partially, it's not the only problem we got, but we spent a lot of money, or someone spent a lot of money on that inclusion park, and now they're asking for a parking lot. I just don't think alcohol needs to be present. It's my personal opinion.
Is there anything that restricts alcohol at the park now?
What was this question?
Is there any restrictions on alcohol in our parks now?
We don't permit alcohol in any of our parks except when we do the events with the summer concert series and the beer garden as of right now.
Ordinance?
That's a question that I was asked and I haven't really had time. I don't know that it's an ordinance. I just know that all of my years at the Parks Department, that's just been our policy. But I don't know if it's an ordinance.
As Commissioner Core said earlier, to have a rule with no enforcement or no punishment to it is really not having a rule. So if it's not an ordinance and it's a policy of the Park Department, is it enforceable?
Do our people go around and enforce it? Not unless it is an obvious thing, or, I mean, like you said, and like I've said before, even with the softball diamonds or wherever we are, we don't know what people have in their cups and we don't go up to them and, enforce it that way. We do have signage that says no alcohol at the county park, so we post it, but I don't know that we've ever had an actual plan to enforce it over the years necessarily, or monitor it. I mean, I can tell you that it's there. We see it in the trash cans. I know it's a thing. It's just that I don't know how with my staff we would even begin to monitor something so large as that in all the different locations.
I know the mayor and I talked about it in a meeting last year that we had. I know that we have it at a summer concert series. My understanding the DORA is just to allow them to be able to drink alcoholic beverages from a vendor and be outside of the small designated area that excise allows them to be in.
Yeah, and the thing that, the part of the reason why I like the idea of having like a special use similar to like our use of facilities petitions is it does give some kind of a notice to the community, to the public, that something like that's going to happen. So that way, if you have your kids and you want to be there on a Saturday afternoon at the park, there's a possibility that you're going to know that an event like this is going to be happening. So you go either to a different park, or if you're okay with it, you continue to go to that park. But that way, there is some type of information that is being put out. We can ensure, since it's county property, that we're covering our bases as far as insurance and other things.
But the conversation we're having is about alcohol in the park when there's no event.
Yes, because that's what DORA is allowing.
But that's already allowed.
Yeah.
There's no law restricting alcohol in the park.
So
the DORA didn't create an issue.
My proposal when I was coming here today was going to be to draft an ordinance that prohibits alcohol in parks, except for uses that are petitioned to the commissioners, which would allow things like your beer gardens or your concert series, those kinds of things.
So under those events, the DORA would still regulate how the alcohol is done. My understanding of DORA, say it's an event on the square, fall festival, and they have a beer garden. When you go into a participating vendor and get the alcoholic beverage, instead of having to stand inside the little fenced-in area, they can participate within the entire DORA area. So if we were to create that, would we still allow the DORA rules?
Well, I can't give you that answer because we weren't, this topic was never brought to us during that phase. So I can't answer that question.
I mean, for our ordinance.
Yeah.
So my role is to answer your questions as it relates to it. So all property that is inside the DORA, all property owners retain every right that they have. Chief McGinley's here. If you have questions about the enforcement, that capability, this actually does have a state law that they would be violating by bringing in something. So if someone is caught, it's not just a rule, it's a state law that they violated that. If they did not purchase it from one of the two current permanent vendors or one of the temporaries that would maybe be there for the summer concert series. I believe it would be fair if you wanted to leave the property, I guess if the city wanted to leave the property in the district, but you wanted to say, hey, we don't allow it except for this and during these hours, I wouldn't see why the DORA wouldn't apply then, because you as the property owner retain all rights to enforce it. Like all the buildings downtown are in the Dora district. If you look at the branch, they have a sign on the door that says no alcohol permitted. Somebody walks in, they ask them to leave, they refuse. GPD, sheriff's office can remove them. So it does have that effect. No one lost any property rights by this. It is up to the individual property owners.
So we could then create an ordinance that says no alcohol beverages on designated properties through Parks and Recreation, except for authorized events that would then follow the door guidelines.
One thing to add to that, if a temporary vendor wishes to set up in a space, has to be identified, which that whole section is, inclusive of Pirate Park. But then also it has to be approved by the city as the Dora district. That has been already well established. The first financial lot back here is in it. This property is in it. And obviously, if somebody were to say, I want to set up something at this event or on this property, one of those requirements is they have to have use of facility. It would be the same for like Visit Greensburg Summer Concert Series. That event is ran by them. Just because someone comes and says, I want to set up there for that event, it would be, are you working with them and do you have their permission? So there is sort of a secondary check. You can't just go out and set up your trailer on Saturday because you want to. It has to go through a process. That would be inclusive of whoever's organizing the event.
Mark, thoughts?
I think we need to get some money out of our, or some time out of our paid attorney.
Well, and I can let you guys know that the city and attorney and I spent about an hour on this on Friday, because I saw it on the agenda, and we were trying to sort it out. And I'm going to have to disagree with the mayor a little bit, not because I think the city was trying to do something untoward, but because I think there was a fundamental failure at the state legislature on how this was put together. Under a technical reading of the statute, it says that any area within the DORA, except for businesses, must accept the DORA. So businesses are specifically called out as having a right to reject people from entering their premises with the alcohol. It does not extend us the same courtesy, and theoretically, it does not even extend the same courtesy to private individuals. Although it reaches a level of absurdity, technically, it's not illegal under the DORA state statute for me to walk into somebody's backyard with a DORA beverage and drink it. It might be trespassing, but I'm not violating an open container law because I'm within the DORA boundaries. I think it is a miss by the legislature that created this problem. It's brand new and it reaches this absurd conclusion, but technically I think that would be something they missed. So the same holds true to the park. Government entities in our property were not extended this courtesy that businesses in the DORA district get. So if they have a DORA approved container, under the state law, you can't prohibit them from entering, and you can't create an ordinance to override state law. Because of the hierarchy of powers, state law is going to trump your ordinance. So we're still within the DORA district. Those containers are allowed. I do agree on the vendor process that, for the individual events, they can approve a vendor, but we don't have to grant them the request of use to set up shop on our property. But wherever that vendor sets up, if it's a DORA container, they're equally allowed in park because it's within the zone. I believe the city had 3 public meetings on this, Mayor.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, so the city followed the statutes and the process to get where they are. So at this point, it either has to be a change in the DORA boundaries, which require the city coming on board, or the state legislature needs to fill this gap that I believe exists unintentionally, but by specifically calling out the businesses, but not our entities. I think they explicitly stated that in the DORA district is what we mean. So that's my current opinion on the matter is we're in the DORA district, we have to abide by the DORA state law.
So Mayor, and if you can answer me this, if it has to be drink from a cup that's purchased there, do they buy a 6-pack, put it in a cooler, because the 1 cup of beer is not going to last to Rebecca Park. Do they get to the library, open their cooler, pour a fresh one in that cup, and that's all?
No. So state law specifically limits how many and what volumes can be sold to an individual at one of the establishments. So the two establishments that have come on are the beach and the tap. Has to be purchased there. We locally have created, it has to be in a labeled 16-ounce clear solo cup. The state law prohibits those places from selling anything to them to be consumed in the Dora that is beyond 2 16-ounce beers, 2 10-ounce wines, or 2 10-ounce cocktails with up to 2 ounces of liquor, is my recollection of that. So you cannot buy a 6-pack, walk out of the place, and consume it in the Dora. That is not. So that's part of it is extremely unlikely that someone is going to buy 2 beers at the beach and make it all the way to Rebecca Park. It is truly, this is created for events so that when like the summer concert series, you don't have to put up this fence. Like the fall festival, when we do the fall festival downtown, you have to put up the barricades and all the signs and the caution tape. You can use the front of the building. So at the park, for example, you would have to put up however big a perimeter you wish to encompass. So you cannot bring in a 6-pack, you can't bring in your own drink, and that really gives the Parks Department even more authority in that if they bring in a 6-pack and open it, they violated the state law.
Which is more important. But what's the enforcement action of violations here? What's the penalty?
I don't know.
I'm sorry? What's the penalty of violating? So the county
It's
makes
an infraction.
It's just an infraction.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It potentially is better than a park rule violation. And it does give opportunities for those types of events to be more monitored, right? And that people know it has to be in that. That's where the identified cup comes into play, is that yes, you could in theory refill it. But again, the goal is people participate because it does build event space and quality. They're very common and popular in Ohio. They have great success. In Indiana, it's very new, obviously. To Chad's point, the legislation is clunky. I think they will probably address some of that. And I think as we get a couple of years in, or as the legislature continues to look at it, I think they'll clean up some of that stuff. But yes, you have to, it is very limited in what an individual can buy it.
So could we draft an ordinance then that allows no BYOB? You can't bring your own alcoholic beverages into the Dora area that's owned by Decatur County.
Absolutely. Because
that would allow the Dora stuff. If there's no Dora event, it's very unlikely, I believe, that anybody's going to walk from the tap to Rebecca Park
for the heck of it. Agreed.
To walk to Rebecca Park.
So yes, the DORA requires, as pointed out, the specific container. So we can establish that no other container is allowed. But as we sit here today, I don't believe we can prohibit the DORA-based containers in the park.
So if we create that ordinance and on a Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m., the sheriff's department sees somebody drinking an alcoholic beverage, would they then be in violation of the DORA law and be able to issue a state violation of violating DORA on Tuesday with no events?
In the container or not?
I've got my Miller Lite in my hand and I'm watching my kid play in the inclusion park. Would that be a violation of DORA?
Yes, but DORA does not create a remedy in and of itself. It would just be a normal citation, as the chief was referring to, presumably chief, just possession of open container.
Open containers only in vehicles. I don't think there's a current law on open container.
The only violation would be having a beverage not DORA approved in a DORA ordinance. And as a law enforcement officer, I always prefer to write a state violation versus a county violation. Because county violation, you have to have which rarely happens, and a state violation, the prosecutor takes care of.
Right.
So in law enforcement, we prefer to write violations that are state violations versus county.
Oh, absolutely.
So if on a Tuesday afternoon at 5, on a random whatever, somebody has an alcoholic beverage indoor, does that make it then a viable state violation of having an alcoholic beverage that's not DORA in that area?
If it's not in the vessel and purchased from one of the two, then yes.
I think that itself makes what we want enforceable.
The problem is having a reasonable suspicion, you can go up and talk to an officer, or talk to the person that has, if they have a door cup and they're drinking.
No, I mean, if I've got my Miller Lite,
that's one thing, but I mean, if you're just talking about having a door cup and they're drinking out of it.
This doesn't eliminate any other state laws.
Right.
So, the reason suspicion you're talking about is probably gonna be somebody's drunk and acting out or something like that. Those laws all still are in effect and are enforceable, everywhere.
The tap isn't serving in door cups other than during events, correct?
They have the ability to serve in them any time, but they do not have to serve in them if the drink isn't leaving their facility. So they can't serve in glass, they can't do any of that in the door. So if you just go in and get a Miller Lite at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, you can stay there, you can have the draft beer in the 22 ounce, or you can have it in a bottle, whatever. It's only if you choose to leave their excise approved for. So they can, as long as it falls between, I think it's 10 a.m. and midnight, they can serve it to the door. The door closes at midnight, but it has to be in the cup, but they don't have to serve everything.
Door is 7 days a week, right?
It is. And part of that is we have, 4th of July parades, we have the Fall Festival, we've got the Friends of Fred, we've got the Farmers Moon, we've got lots of stuff that doesn't happen. It's just the third weekend in September.
My goal was to try to limit those situations that families might not be comfortable with. And I think if we have an ordinance that reflects similar to what you were talking about, I think that can at least alleviate some of this concern. And then if the legislature can clean up a little bit more on it, then I think we can have more appropriate boundaries.
No alcoholic beverages allowed in parks and rec designated areas, except for during county commissioner improvements. And then they would then follow the door rules from that point.
There may also be signage available that says no alcohol in the playground area that we could expand on as well. I mean, just to keep
But to
it.
Chad's point, if Dora says it's allowed there, we can't override it with a sign. We're not a business, apparently.
So
Government isn't a business.
So they would actually have access to all of it, and it wouldn't, the signage then wouldn't make a difference. So
Based off of what I
he's
think
saying.
the attorney advised me. Yes.
That is my current reading of the statute, and the city attorney agrees. We tore it apart on Friday afternoon, and the conclusion we both reached.
And to violate that, if you take Dora out of the conversation, violate that still has no penalty currently. Creating an ordinance still doesn't do that, so removing Dora does what? Say we just say, take Dora out of the parks. Please, Mayor, just redo it, take us out of it.
If we haven't reduced it to an ordinance, we should, and we should include a penalty provision to our violation of our ordinance. And then enforce it.
But we would have to remove Dora to do that.
In my opinion, yes.
Only in Rebecca Park, we could have an ordinance for all county parks.
We can create an ordinance for all county parks. Currently, I believe only Rebecca Park would be under a special treatment. Yeah.
And back to my original statement, there's no way they're gonna get downtown to Rebecca Park with a cup of beer being fit to drink. They haven't done that. My point is, they're gonna have a cooler sitting right beside them with this cup, and they're gonna refill that cup and think they're in.
And that is technically illegal under the DORA, hard to enforce. I appreciate the point and agree, but it would not be permissible under the state law.
But currently, there's no law that somebody sitting at the park drinking now. That we're aware of. I know there was, I have concerns with their liability of residents on Washington Street. People traveling through there, falling down, hurting themselves, and then being liable. I don't believe that's a huge liability concern. I don't believe that the door creates anything excess of that, but it's certainly not a commissioner, an area the commissioners can address because that area is not in our.
If they're on public right of way in Harmon, it's no different than doing it right now, walking down the street. As Chief mentioned, all of the public intox, all of the trespass, all of disorderly, all of that remains. It doesn't change any of that. So and I've talked to some folks about it too, state law requires them to be connected. That's another piece that's a little clunky, is you have to have permanent vendors in your district, and there isn't one out there to capture Pirate Park or the Rebecca Park events. So it doesn't really change anything. Again, and we have been stressing this as long all property owners retain their rights. So if somebody's on your property, if somebody litters, if somebody falls, that's on them as well, and all of the other type items still remain in effect.
All right, so we'll move forward with an ordinance of some sort.
If you all are willing, I'm happy to help, or I'm happy to have Chris help and work with Chad on something that we think is good for both of us.
I think that'd be great.
Yep. Next up, biosolids and forever chemicals discussion.
So this was brought to me several months ago, and I've been following the conversation or the situation. There's a company currently looking to create a biosolids waste treatment facility in Bartholomew County. What biosolids are by definition is, I wrote it down. Biosolids are a product of the wastewater treatment process. During wastewater treatment, liquids are separated from the solids. Those solids are then treated physically and chemically to produce a semi-solid, nutrient-rich product known as biosolids. Terms biosolids and sewage sludge are often used interchangeably. There are two classes of biosolids. There's A and B class. A class biosolids are virtually free of pathogens and can be used anywhere. Class B biosolids have some pathogens and must be managed at sites with little public contact with various restrictions. These biosolids are mostly used on farms and highly managed forestry or land reclamation. So the concern is that with these biosolids, Decatur County, Greensburg, Indiana produces biosolids, and our wastewater treatment plants, while each industry in Decatur County has its own water treatment plant, Honda, KV Foods, Delta, the water from those goes to our water treatment plant, is injected with everything else, and then separated out. That is then dried and then land applied. I believe last year's land applied biosolids from Greensburg was 55 acres. With that, our Greensburg wastewater treatment plant operator can inspect and be a part of and be in each of those plants so he understands what's coming out of it. The biosolids plant that's being proposed in Bartholomew County will collect biosolids from numerous plants, separate that, create the biosolid, and then intends on land applying that in Decatur, Rush, Ripley, and Bartholomew counties. The concern comes from a toxic chemical known as PFAS and PFOSs. These are everywhere and they're all over. They're used in industry, fire foam, making your carpet stain free, your clothes. Yeah,
you're not.
It's in lots of stuff. So to say that we're going to eliminate it is an impossibility. But to accept and have biosolids delivered and liquefied in Decatur County, we don't know what plants they're coming from. Currently, the EPA, as of last week, has regulated PFAS in our water. That just came from last week. So our drinking water now has an enforceable level of PFAS allowed to be in it. We have already tested positive for PFAS in the Greensburg water and Westport water systems. Biosolids are not tested for PFAS. The EPA is just starting to study the effects of that. There are a lot of lawsuits concerning PFAS. The cleanup from PFAS into our water and into any wastewater will be in the billions. The smaller your treatment plant, the more it seems to cost because it's not as economical to treat, because the more you can do, that it costs less to do it for. So as I was reading, going through this, Bartholomew County has started the process of eliminating having any biosolids brought in and land applied outside the county. And I think, and I want to open discussion on following suit with that and not allowing biosolids that are processed or created outside of Decatur County to be brought into Decatur County. This wouldn't restrict our own Greensburg water plant from being able to land apply and do that. It would just restrict any other county from being able to do that, or this other biosolids plant from being able to do that. PFAS and the biosolids gets into our water treatment programs, it gets into our stormwater runoff, it gets into our creeks, and our rural citizens have to worry about PFAS in their well water, into the stormwater, into their creek water. I found a article from Minnesota or Michigan, a farmer who was completely shut down by the EPA because his cattle meat tested positive for PFAS, and so did his crops. His crops were being grown in the water with PFAS in it and transferred to his beef, and they shut his entire operation down because his beef was tainted with PFAS through the consumption of that through the drains and stuff. So while it's being studied, we don't really have the information or research available to make a real good decision. I think limiting the amount of potential PFAS coming into our area until there's much better regulation on that.
I agree. I don't want opinion outside the county. Certainly, I want to make sure that the ordinance is narrowly tailored to be very specific for what we're targeting. I don't want there to be any ambiguity so that we are affecting the possible disposal of animal waste from a confined feeding operation or anything like that. I want to be specific as to what we're targeting.
Correct. In agreement, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to define biosolids through the EPA and the IDM as wastewater treatment, human wastewater treated biosolids, not our cow manure and our poultry manure and our hog manure that's regulated in a completely different fashion. That. But don't use words that you can't use, right?
You'll remember that in 10 years from now.
Four thoughts? Oh, I agree. And I think, Chad, you can probably mimic what I've read, what Bartholomew County has written.
I think Dearborn's already passed one as well.
Moving on, Kohler Park agreement. Chad's written up a resolution authorizing Decatur County Parks and Rec to use, maintain, and improve Kohler Park for a minimum of 5 years following adoption of this resolution. We've all three had our hands on it some more, and our eyes on it. Any other thoughts?
No, I think
We have lunch catered in here.
I think it's a good thing.
Tony's buying.
Any comments from anybody? One of the reasons we moved this out another meeting was public comment. If anybody's here to have any comment.
I think it's amazing, especially for the youth for Special Olympics, that they have the opportunity to continue to use that for 5 years.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Janet, a number, please.
2024-4.
Next up, we have a maintenance contract, Mid-America Elevator. That's who's going to be doing our update on our elevator, rather than Otis, who's been the current provider of that. I think this is, remember the numbers, how much cheaper?
The new this contract is 2,200 a year. With Otis, we would have been at 12,100.
So about $10,000 savings a year with the company that's just as close and have several. They take care of several elevators here in town. So
it's a 5-year agreement.
5 years, okay.
And they're installing everything.
Yes, they're the people that's going to be making the upgrade.
I make a motion to approve the contract.
Second motion. Have they given any update as far as the parts and everything for the elevator?
Still getting parts. Cooper Main mechanical rep came down 2 weeks ago and had to do some work measuring and looking to order some more parts. Right now, it looks like it's probably the end of June at the earliest.
Next up is Access Medical Agreement. Patty, you want to talk about this a little?
So Access Medical is an urgent care clinic that is located out next to Chili's. Probably seen it. Presently, we were not in the network as far as the county went, but that has changed since February. So they are part of our network, so that will help our employees and families. I have met with a rep from Access Medical, and they can also help us out with some services that we need, pre-employment services, so the drug test, the physical. They can help with the CDL physicals, and I've gotten rates set up with them that are comparable with Workwell Clinic. So we are not leave Workwell Clinic, they'll still be our primary contact, but Access Medical has hours that go from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. So that kind of gives us a little more options on weekends. And again, since we have these rates, it should save some money. So it's just an agreement. Either can cancel at any time. But again, I don't see any reason not to. They will send paperwork directly to workers' comp and to me, so I'm aware of any visits. So
It's no financial obligation to us. It's just
another option.
Option for us to use. Questions about this?
Well, I go ahead and make a motion to enter into that agreement.
I'll second. Next thing we have is Ashley Hungate's appointment to the Decatur County Board. I guess it's a reappointment. She's been serving.
Yeah, this is last year. Yeah. I make a motion to reappoint her to the Decatur County Board.
Awesome. Somewhere along the line.
there's actually two.
Two pages. Do you have anything else? You're on that.
I've got 2 points of topic.
Oh,
I've been on the table. First point of topic brought up 2 or 3 weeks ago is that our current county policy, our courthouse security plan, and our ordinance on firearms and weapons in the building don't match. County policy states that county employees can enter the department or the courthouse with a firearm with the approval of the commissioners and the sheriff under specific conditions. Must have a valid government issued handgun permit or license, have any pending state or federal crime cases, may not carry a handgun to the courthouse appearing on a personal legal matter, must be kept concealed on his or her body or locked up. It also states that they must meet a county sheriff's office approved handgun safety course. Currently, our ordinance doesn't allow this, and it is not in the county courthouse security plan. So I'm going to have a topic of conversation on how to bring this into line with the other 2 documents.
So is that a lawyer question, I'm assuming?
Well, we either need to change our policy so that they're not allowed to have handguns, which is what our ordinance is, or we need to change our ordinance. You know, we need to ask the sheriff what the sheriff's office approved handgun safety courses.
I think if I remember right from the discussions back during that policy revision, you did not want to enter into the fray of approving certain handgun or firearm safety courses.
That's correct.
Also question liability to the commissioners if there is an employee involved with shooting or cause of action. We provide or allow that without proper training. That's a good question.
So this is digging through my memory bank, so I won't swear to this, but Sheriff, isn't it under your duties of by state statute that one of the sheriff's duties is enforcement and security of a courthouse?
Yes.
That is a state statute, right? So again, I think you get into the hierarchy issue of a state statute requires something, so I believe the sheriff's policy is the controlling document here by Indiana requirements. So again, if the ordinance is what doesn't match here, then
The ordinance matches the sheriff's policy.
Okay.
The handbook.
Our county policy handbook, page 83 and 84
I think
match.
that's simple enough where we just say the county's firearm policy is reflected in the ordinance or the sheriff's courthouse security plan.
So yes.
So it, as the sheriff will change his policy, reflect that it's in there.
Yeah, our handbook policy cannot override the sheriff's duties charged by the state. So the policy is the one that's out of line here, needs reflected differently, not his policy. If he has it how he wants it, we comply with it.
And again, our policy is reflected in the ordinance, which I think trumps everything in this case.
So the second point of the topic is HR and their roles in our offices that don't have elected officials involved. Currently, HR is not in the complaint path or process path for our offices with no elected officials. I think we need to reconsider that and draft a policy and a path for that to happen. So any communication does follow the proper chain of command and goes to who it needs to go to. But if it goes to HR, there's policy and direction on how they are to react, who to contact, under what situations, and timelines for those things.
I think HR needs to be included in those circumstances for complaints.
I would agree. That was one of the purposes and intent when we created that position.
I will start working on a draft policy to try to outline or see what that's going to look like in every situation I can to kind of get it on paper so we can move forward with those.
Anything else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a couple of invoices that I just uncovered here. One's in, I know it's in the budget, invoice, the commissioner's budget for $3,500 at the old landfill, support for mowing, cleaning, and those sorts of things. Probably needs to be approved, I'm assuming that's why I was here.
I go ahead and make that motion. I'll second. Those are bills that are really never going away, right?
Correct. The other's an invoice, I'm not sure why it went in claims, but it's the alarm system check base monitoring for the new highway garage, $720. An annual fee going forward.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Sean, you have anything? Nope. Dawn? Sure? Been here long enough too? Josh? You have a finger up, you got something?
Just real quick, I promise I won't take a lot of time. It was mentioned in a previous meeting, I was actually trying to communicate with you guys via the Teams meeting that you couldn't hear me. We were discussing vehicle purchases. We have been working with Chief McNeely and the mayor on repurposing used SUV from the city of Greensburg. And they've worked out an agreement based on their trade value that they were offered for the county to basically purchase it for half that cost. This is a limited use vehicle just for us transporting things between sites, not wanting to haul expensive equipment from personal vehicles. I talked with the auditor and Commissioner Blodgett. We have cash available to make the payment. However, with us being split, funded 50-50, that would fall right for the city's funds use. So Janet recommended I talk to you guys about vehicle purchase, utilizing the funds, I believe, UCAP, like what was done for the community corrections vehicle the last meeting. That's what I was trying to speak to. I didn't have approval from the city yet. That happened on Tuesday evening for their disposal. So just wanted to come and ask. Their average trading cost was $3,125. So the county portion would be $1,562.50. Like I said, I have the cash available, but that is already split.
Already 50% there.
Right.
You guys don't want to pay 2/3, 1/3?
No, not on this. I spent about 2 minutes trying to do the math. Well, should we just bet? You know what? No, I'm just gonna go ask for $1,500.
What kind of vehicle is it?
That's a 2014 Ford Explorer. Unfortunately, it was actually a canine vehicle, so the rear seats were carbon moving already, so for storage and equipment and moving things around, should work pretty well.
They take the good tires off of it or stuff?
I think they're checking everything out. Although, we still need to remove this drive.
Yeah, the car was good. How many miles on it?
I think it's 76, 70, maybe 72,000.
10-year-old here.
And again, not a take gun car, we're gonna sit there, remove the liability from you and your insurance when you're hauling $10,000 worth of commuter equipment.
And we do currently have a line item. We had received, I think, gosh, what, 2 or 3 hand-me-down vehicle, went from someone to community corrections to Board of Health to us. And during the transition of that moving and everything, we discovered that it had been leaking again, and we ended up taking it off of the insurance last year. So we did not utilize any of our vehicle equipment and maintenance funds. That's why I would have the cash per se to just do this without having to. But we would be funded for the limited fuel, that we would need this year.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
No, agree.
How do we want to dispose of that other vehicle? Do we want to give that to Josh to take care of?
Next question, Josh. Haul it across the street. River Metal or
Push
have a process.
or however.
I've looked at the vehicle, I think River Metals is probably your best venue for getting rid of that, it's not very certain.
I didn't know if we had a process for this.
Janet, you have to have approval to dispose of any county asset.
So that's something I can ask for now, just so we don't have to.
Give her.
Yes. Yes. So can I have approval to
Give
dispose of?
Yes.
Yes.
Please clean up the parking lot, it's ugly back there.
Anyone else?
Just wanted to thank everybody that contributed to the Eclipse event. Tony did a ton, the Power of the Past folks haven't really been out in the fairground, the city, everything out of the fire department, the sheriff's department, police. Josh and the communications team were incredible, having everybody prepared for that day. 911. Oh, I don't forget the people, but we had about 10,000 visitors in town on Monday, which is by far the biggest Monday we've had, at least going back a year, by a pretty wide margin. So I know Saturday and Sunday were slower than what we anticipated, but Monday overall was a great day for the community. We had a lot of folks in town, and everything went smoothly because of the coordination. I think that everybody put into that leading up to it. So appreciate the efforts everybody had for that.
And I can report with a high level of certainty that no taxpayer dollars will be utilized for the event. Initial expenses versus receipts easily cover any monies spent from taxpayers.
Had the Boilermakers not been in the Army Championship, there'd been 10,000 more people here in Decatur County.
Blame it on Purdue.
Some of them went to teams.
Yeah, we had a lot of folks out of town, for sure. But you know, beautiful day. You mentioned the sun was, we could not have asked, we could have gotten any luck in the weather that day. It was very, very cool.
Good day. Nothing else, I would entertain the motion to.
I will make a motion to recess. I'll second.
Amen. Thank you all.
Very